On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, as recommended by George, dude, it's my birthday.
Welcome to the Crushing Debt Podcast with your host, Florida attorney Shawn, where our goal is to help you get rid of the financial bullies in your life.
So welcome back to this episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Shawn Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law. And welcome to this. If you're listening to this on the day of release, you are listening to this episode on December 15th. December 15th happens to also be my birthday. What? So you are listening on my birthday. And I was born way back in the Dolphins' perfect season of 1972, which for those of you that are good at math, if you're listening to this on the day of release, I am 50 today. I'm a half century old.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So George Corbello, your financial coach, is with me here. Thank you for being here with me on my birthday.
He had a senior moment, but that's okay. I'm here, my friend. And
happens to us 50-year-olds from time to time.
Many birthday wishes, my friend. I'm telling you.
Thank you.
How you doing, brother?
Doing good. Made it 50 times around the sun. Hopefully we'll make it another 50 around the sun. We'll see.
We'll see indeed. But everybody's doing well. Once again, I'm still sick of all the Christmas songs. I'm not feeling it yet, but maybe we'll get there. I don't know.
Well, so good news for me. Hanukkah starts in 3 days.
There you go.
3 nights. It's first day. I think the first day is Sunday the 18th, which makes the first night Saturday the 17th.
A ton of gifts.
Yeah, we always
celebrations.
I don't know when is your birthday, and I need to know this because I need to make fun of you on your birthday, like you're going to make fun of me today.
July 20th. So we got some months to go.
We got some time, but for me, I was lucky growing up that if my birthday happened to fall on Hanukkah, I still got 2 presents that night. So I love Hanukkah, and it was funny when I was talking to my wife, to Melanie, about how we would do Hanukkah for our boys. She would get one big present for all of Hanukkah. Mm-hmm. I would get 8 nights worth. And it wasn't, and I've talked about this on the show too, actually, before. And it wasn't, 8 nights of $1,000 presents.
Oh, come on now.
It was, so when I said for our boys, I wanted to get them 8 nights of presents, and my wife was like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, look, one night will be like a coloring book and crayons.
Right, exactly.
We're not going to go bonkers for all 8 nights. One night will be a big gift. One night will get them a big gift, but the other 8 nights. So for those of you that have birthdays during the holiday season, how did your family do it? Did you get big presents, the day of my best friend, my best man, his birthday is December 24.
Oh, that's got to be the worst.
He would get 2 presents.
Okay,
he'd get a present on his birthday and he'd get a bunch of stuff on Christmas. So how do you all do it? How would your family do it? And we've talked about that kind of stuff before on the show.
Well, we're assuming you're trying to get some new listeners here, my friend. So
I am.
We got to get to know who the mastermind between the Crushing Debt podcast is, and that's this fine young, not so young guy anymore. Yeah.
And we'll get there. Before we do, real quick, want to mention one of our 2 sponsors. Talk about him every week, Sam Cohen. He's a great guy. He owns Attorneys First Insurance. If you need malpractice insurance, E&O coverage, definitely contact Sam, especially if you are a title insurance company or an attorney. If you're outside of that profession, I don't think Sam would be interested, but I'm sure he can refer you to a company that can get you malpractice coverage. But if you are an attorney or a title company, or if you own a law firm, or if you own a title company, definitely contact Sam Cohen it's sam@attorneysfirst.com, or just go to his website, attorneysfirst.com. He can give you a quote on errors and omissions insurance, also called malpractice insurance. Even if you've had a claim in the past, he can still probably get you coverage. So contact Sam, great friend of the show, great supporter of the show, great friend and great supporter of me personally as well. So he is our first of 2 sponsors. I'll get to our second here at the end of the episode. But what we thought we'd do today, since today is episode 351, and I probably could have timed that better so that episode 350 was also my 50th birthday.
Oh, man.
But, oh well. Today is 351. We'll make do.
Put it in parentheses in the title then.
There you go. But for episode 351, for my 50th birthday, George had an idea of basically interviewing me. So I will turn it over to you, George.
I would say, my friend, thank you so much. Again, what I'm thinking here is just get to know Shawn. You guys have been listening for a long time, but we want to make sure we remember. It's like, let's go down the life of Shawn Yesner and figure out exactly what makes this man the greatest lawyer in history, in the United States, in the universe. But no, my friend, I just wanted to obviously just go back in history, get to know Shawn a little bit. What drives you? Why are you here? What are you doing? And then, of course, what are we planning for the big 50th? And then, of course, what are the next few years? Because we're going to be, celebrating a birthday every year, but I want to make sure we understand that. But Shawn, tell me, where are you from, my friend? Let's get everybody caught up in regards to where you're from and what kind of family life did you grow up in?
So I am a Florida native.
That explains a lot.
I am a rare unicorn. I am not like George and his ilk that moved down here from New York and then call themselves Floridians.
I'm really cold, so yeah.
That ain't me. No, I was actually born in Tampa. My parents both graduated high school living in Miami. My grandparents all lived in Miami. So my dad ended up joining the Air Force, and when he got out of the Air Force, he was stationed at MacDill, and that's where I was born. Was not on MacDill, but I was born in Tampa when my parents, my dad left the Air Force, went to college. Finished off his college here at USF, and so I was born here in Tampa. But shortly after I was born, my parents moved back to Miami to be closer to all the grandparents. So I actually grew up in Miami. So after Miami, went to FSU undergrad, which if anyone's been listening for more than 2 or 3 weeks is no big secret. Went to Florida State undergrad, went to a law school called Cumberland School of Law in Birmingham, Alabama. That was really the only 3 years of my life I've lived outside the state of Florida.
Wow.
It snowed my first year of law school, and I was like, nope.
We're done.
We're out. So moved back to Miami to start my career, worked there for 3 years at a real estate firm, which is how I got into real estate law. And then in 2001, moved back to the Tampa Bay area, so just basically made a huge circle. Moved back to the Tampa Bay area, got the job at the foreclosure mill, and that's how I learned this area of law, and the rest is history.
Well, why lawyer, my friend? A lot of us growing up, it's either lawyer, doctor, or I guess chemist, if you want to go with it.
Yes. It's kind of interesting. I've known that I wanted to be an attorney since high school. Okay. I've known. I was in a law class. There's 2 stories here. I was in a law school class my senior year of high school, and one of our projects was to interview an attorney and then report back to the class. And so my dad's a CPA. Being a CPA, I knew that he knew attorneys. And so I said, can you hook me up with an attorney that I can interview? And the attorney that he set me up with was a friend of his that did tax law. Now, the interesting thing is he had actually argued cases in front of the United States Supreme Court. And so I went out and interviewed him, and that was I'm like, dude's been in front of the Supreme Court. That's awesome.
That is big.
So had a great time interviewing him. That kind of cemented in my mind that I wanted to be an attorney. Now, at the time, I wanted to be a tax attorney. My thought process was I'll work for the IRS for a few years, and then when I get out, when I'm done working for the IRS, I'll switch sides and represent taxpayers. Which was kind of what this other attorney had done. And so I said, yeah, sounds like a cool career path. With my dad being a CPA, he can refer me clients. Right. Sounds like something cool to do. The other part of that story, so my senior year in high school, by then I'd been playing drums for, I don't know, 7, 8 years by that point, I think. No, maybe 4 or 5 years by that point. And so my senior year in high school, the class day was broken into 9 periods. So lunch was one of them. Mm-hmm. I had math, I had English, I had science, and I had law. The other 4 periods were all music related.
Cool.
I was in marching band / concert band. I was in jazz band. We had a percussion ensemble class, and I was in color guard. And the reason I was in color guard was I didn't have anything to do with twirling.
I was about to say, this is going to get interesting.
No, the color guard class was right before the percussion ensemble class. So I basically just had 2 hours or 2 class periods of sitting in the music room playing drums.
Nice.
The other thing that I wanted to do growing up was I wanted to be a professional musician. I very quickly learned that the money was in law, not in music.
Gotcha.
So that's
Okay.
why I made that switch.
I thought you got kicked out of the band or something.
No. So my last year, I'm taking law as an elective class in high school, and we had our mock trial competition, and there were 3 different law classes throughout the day. The teacher had 3 separate mock trials, and then from those mock trials, the teacher picked the best students to be on the school's mock trial team.
Okay.
So I get together, my role in that mock trial, and this made such an imprint on me that it's how many years later I still know this story. I was the attorney that was interviewing the plaintiff as a witness.
Okay.
And so I get together with a buddy of mine who's going to be the plaintiff, the witness. And I craft the questions, and I talk about how he's supposed to answer them, and I talk about where I expect. And I'm in high school. I know nothing about the law. And I'm trying to think where the objections might come in and how we might counter those objections. I do all of it, and I prepare the whole thing for him.
Okay.
The teacher loved him so much, she picked him to be on the school's mock trial team as the plaintiff witness.
Okay.
Didn't pick me to be on the school's mock trial team.
Uh-oh.
So I'm like, I'll show you.
Okay.
I just became an attorney out of spite for not being on the mock trial team.
And that's usually how we choose our careers itself. It's just, that teacher, I'm going to get back at him. I'm going to be the best amazing lawyer or slash doctor or whatever. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Little grudge there, but it's all right.
I mean, part of this goes back to actually your first question. Part of the way that I grew up, and I give my dad and mom and grandparents and family a lot of credit for this, and I'm trying to instill this in my boys right now. There was always this expectation that there was more that I was going to have to do after high school. Mm-hmm. Some of my friends, when they were getting ready to graduate high school, it's what are you doing next? For me and the majority of my friends, the question was, what college are you going to? And then when I got to the end of college, a lot more of my friends, it was, okay, what job are you going to go get based on your degree? Yep. But for me, even what I was getting from my family and even some of my close friends, it wasn't what job are you going to get, it's what advanced degree are you going to get? In other words, it was always kind of expected and anticipated that I was going to get some degree beyond the bachelor's degree. And so I'm trying to instill that right now. Now, if my boys, I'm not going to college or I'm good with my bachelor's, right, I'm going to support whatever they decide to do. But it was always kind of instilled in me that I was going to get that advanced degree. So whether it was getting a CPA license after graduating with the accounting degree, whether it was going to law school, I always kind of knew that there was going to be something beyond college. Now, once I got to the end of law school, those questions stopped.
Right.
Although I could have kept going, but for the most part, when I got to the end of law school, those questions stopped, and it was, what are you going to do now? I've tried to do that with my boys in terms of even now talking to them about, if you get good grades now, you can go to the college you want, you can go to there, you can go here. So
instill the values itself. I got to say that obviously your dad has been a huge influence on your life itself. So I mean, is there one story or one tip that he's given you that kind of sticks with you today? I know there's plenty. It sounds like you have so many itself. But is there one that sticks out? There
are so many. A couple of funny dad stories. The thing that's made the biggest impact on me, one of his sayings, and I use this, in our networking group in BNI.
Right.
Every meeting ends with a positive quote. And it was when it was my turn to do the positive quote. The positive quote that my dad says that still has an impact on me to this day. He said, when opportunity knocks, you don't have to let it in, but you're a fool if you don't at least answer the door.
Right.
So you don't have to take every opportunity that comes your way, but at least look at them, evaluate them, figure out what you want to do. That's always made the biggest impression. The other story is kind of a funny one. I forget how old I was. I know I was a teenager, and I just had it. I'd had it. I'm done. My dad's an idiot. I hate my parents. I'm done. And obviously,
that never is a phrase that any of the 50-year-olds.
No teenagers have ever uttered that phrase. No.
Go ahead.
And so I'm so stupid. I said to my dad, well, I'm just going to run away then. My dad, and this is December-ish, January-ish, and we're in Miami. My dad. It must
be very cold at that time.
It was in like the 60s or something.
A little chilly.
But my dad walks to the front door, opens the front door, looks at me and says, the front door leads to all parts of the world, and walks away. I took one step outside, stood there for a second, came back inside and said, it's too cold for me to run away tonight. And I went into my room and I went to sleep. But that attitude of my dad knows me better than
Right.
even I probably even to this day knows me better than he knew I wasn't going anywhere. But to have what always made that impact on me is the way that he raised me, and to have that kind of confidence that he knew that I was going to make the right decision that I was going to make. That story kind of always sticks with me too.
It's funny. I think I have a story like that with my mom, so I can't wait to tell you that one. But oh boy, that is. We as teenage boys, we do love to test our authority, and unfortunately, that's a good story though. I appreciate I like the line though, like your dad's, like it leads to many. What was that?
The front door leads to all parts of the world.
It's such. I imagine that's even that's impactful. Even like it's so true.
Yeah, I used to say the only reason I went to law school was to win an argument with my dad. And unfortunately, if that was my goal, I need to get my law school tuition back.
I was about to say, well, you won.
Yeah. Well, so what I also understand is that my dad wanted to be an attorney. Mm-hmm. He got his CPA, and he was probably smart enough to be an attorney. And he was a practicing CPA. And when he was trying to decide if he wanted to go to law school or not, my mom comes walking in, and guess what? I'm pregnant. And that ended his aspirations for law school.
Got to.
So
right.
Another reason I became a lawyer is because I was the reason my dad couldn't become a lawyer.
There you go. Just continue it. Nice job there. All right. Well, let me ask you this, my friend. You seem to be a mayor of Tampa and Miami, and you know a lot of folks itself. But a lot of the friends that you have, what are some of the things they would say about you? Any characteristics? What are the things that you think they would say? Nice. And of course, bad. We're in that season of good and bad right now. But what's one thing you think your friends would tell you about you?
Gosh,
and say Shawn is this.
Well, I think they would say I was nice. I guess
I would hope.
I don't know if nice is the right word here, but I think they would say that I do. I do care about people. I do care about how other people feel. I do care about helping other people.
Absolutely. Part
of this goes back, one of the questions you may or may not have on your list is my why. And I can either tell you that now or tell you that when the question comes up. So
this is your day, my man.
So here's the interesting thing. I've known this guy since I was 4. Mm-hmm. He's my best man. I was his best man. We grew up 5-6 houses away from each other. My best friend, his name's Ronnie. Any of you listening, if you ever want to go fishing down in the Keys, he runs a charter out of Isla Mirada. He's City of Miami Fire Rescue. He runs a charter out of Isla Mirada. If any of you ever want to go fishing on a fishing charter down in the Keys, let me know. I will hook you up with him. His boat is the Green-Eyed Girl. He does fishing charters out of Isla Mirada. My best friend, I've known him, nearly 50 years now, 45 plus years now. He was captain of the football team, captain of the wrestling team, first baseman on the baseball team. I was a straight A student in the band, 90 pounds soaking wet with rocks in my pockets. But I never got picked on by any of the jocks because they knew if they picked on me, they would have to answer to him. So the jocks never picked. I made it all throughout. My friends got harassed incessantly, but none of them ever came anywhere near me because they knew if they tried to bully me, they would have to answer to him. But I had my bullies. There was this one particular guy. I remember I was in junior high. He was a year ahead of me. And I think he might have been a little bit jealous. Hopefully he's not listening. I think he might have been. And if he is, who cares? I'm old enough.
Thank you,
now.
actually, for listening.
I don't care at this point. He might have been a little bit jealous because I had been playing drums for years before I got to junior high, for a couple of years before I got to junior high. And so I skipped beginning band. And I was as good or a little bit better than him at that point in our drumming career, but
right.
he's older than me. So he bullied me. We get to my last year of junior high. He's gone on to high school. I'm there at junior high. I have a great time. I'm part of the first jazz band of our junior high. I was in concert band. I got picked to go with the high school I was going into to go on a marching band parade at Philadelphia. So I walk into our first rehearsal with the high school marching band. He's there. And so, of course, now I get bullied all through high school.
Jeez.
I get to my senior year of high school. He's graduated high school. He's moved on. I'm now captain of the drum line. I'm now in the school jazz band. I'm in the band, in the play. I mean, our football team was. My buddy is great friend of mine, but our football team was terrible. We went
Can't carry the team.
3 years of high school. I think our football team went 3-27.
Not bad.
Ugh. And one of those was by default because the other team had ineligible players.
Okay.
So people would come to the football games to see us, to see the band. We would challenge other drum lines. We would challenge other bands. We had a great time. I'm, king of the school here, even in the band, in the drum line. Again, in the jazz band, took high drum at multiple competitions, met who would be a very serious girlfriend of mine. We're split now. She's on with her life, whatever. Have friends that I made even back then that I still keep in touch with today. Great friends that I keep in touch with today.
Sure.
Senior year of high school is great. I get to FSU. I walk into auditions. He's there.
Oh, my goodness.
The same guy is there. Now, luckily, he had taken a year off, so we're auditioning to be in FSU's drumline at the same time.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, I don't know that I would have made it into FSU's drumline because he would have bullied me. He would have had the leverage to bully me even then. Bullied me all throughout college. Now, today, the postscript to this story is we're friendly today. I mean, I don't necessarily, hey, I'm coming to, he still lives in Tallahassee.
Okay.
I don't call him when I'm coming into town. But if I see him around, handshakes and hugs and how you doing and all that kind of stuff, we're friendly today. But this guy bullied me so much that the why I do what I do, I talk about financial bullies. Mm-hmm. And it's when somebody owes the bank money and they don't know how they're going to pay it. They feel like the bank is bullying them.
Right.
And I think it works both ways. I have some clients that are lenders, and they feel like they're being bullied because the borrowers aren't paying them.
Yeah.
If they can, why aren't they paying me? So it's this concept of using finances to bully somebody else. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, just because I think back to that junior high, high school, college kid that was afraid of his bully. And I don't want my clients to feel that way. So if I can step in and prevent the bullying, that's kind of why I do what I do.
Oh, man, the feelings, the emotions that are all tied to that itself. We're sorry. Here's your hug. I'm sorry about that, buddy. But at the same time, I'd imagine the caring, the reason why you're so passionate is the backstory that you have there. So it's amazing that you put all that into practice. And I'd imagine your clients appreciate the caring and the compassion that you put into supporting and obviously managing their cases from a week-to-week basis.
I hope so. Although at this point now I'm 50 years old. Who has bullies anymore? Maybe it's possible. Who the hell knows?
Well, I guess with that. All right, let me ask you one last question itself. For me, it's obviously you are doing the podcast for 351 episodes itself. What motivates you from a podcast perspective, from a business perspective? Because I'd imagine it's hard. I'd imagine it's got to be difficult to kind of keep yourself motivated. But what motivates you, my friend?
That is a loaded question. So I will kind of turn it around and say thank you to you. So I love doing the podcast. However, honestly, before you jumped on board, it was getting hard. It was getting hard to think of interviews and episodes and topics and agendas and all that kind of stuff. And it was getting kind of hard. But now having you on board, having ideas, we can bounce off of each other. You come up with ideas, I come up with ideas.
Right.
It has kind of re-energized me a little bit. I mean, the birth of the podcast really was my SEO guys at the time. I was trying to get more business for the law firm.
Right.
And they kept saying, you need to write more blogs. You need to write more blogs. I'm like, I can't. I'm writing motions. When am I going to sit down and write a stupid blog? Not that blogs are stupid. I'm not saying blogs are stupid. I'm saying my blogs would be stupid.
Right.
When am I going to sit down and have the time to write this? At the time, a guy named Chris Kremitzos, again, anybody who's listening for a long time will know I'm part of Podfest. I'm part of that community. Chris Kremitzos started it. He basically started the podcast community here in Tampa. Him and his wife, Katie, were starting up Katie's podcast.
Right.
And he was getting a lot into podcasting and doing different educational topics and whatnot around it. And I sat back and I thought to myself, it's hard for me to sit down and write, but it's easy for me to talk. And so why don't I talk about things within the law, within my practice that are interesting to me and see what happens? And so I would be talking in my car by myself.
Not weird.
Not weird. Other people thought maybe I was singing. Who knows?
There you go.
And I was talking, because that's not weird either. And I was talking about well, let me say this, and let me talk about this, and let me insert this joke here, and let me insert that joke there. And I thought, well, this is dumb. Why don't I just fire up the mic and record all this nonsense? And so that was really the birth of the podcast. And then I know Tiffany Kellogg's been a guest on the show a bunch of times.
Yes.
Tiffany basically held me accountable and said, give me your launch date. Give me your recording schedule. Give me this. Give me that. And so the first couple episodes of the podcast were really her holding me accountable to doing what I said I was going to do, which is why the podcast launched. The podcast literally launched to support the law firm and the listener. I mean, to support the listeners, but also to support the law firm. And at this point, I'm a creature of habit. So being able to record on a weekly basis is just something that I enjoy doing because it's part of my habit now. Right. It's part of my routine now. And that's why I said before, I would probably still be doing this regardless because I enjoy doing it at this point. It's opened up the law firm to the podcaster community, which is super diverse in the area. It's set me apart in some of the other networking groups that I'm in that I do a podcast. And there's something in the podcast industry called pod fade, which is kind of what I was suffering from a little bit before you joined, which is it takes so much for us to come up with the topics and the recording and the editing and all that kind of stuff that a lot of podcasters burned out. There's another attorney in town here who did a podcast. It faded. Mm-hmm. He tried to start it up again. To my knowledge, it's faded again. Okay. I've got multiple stories of attorneys in town that do that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of fun now to say, I don't know, and attorneys can't make absolute statements like this, but whatever.
But he will.
I will. It's a podcast.
It's your podcast. Who cares?
I think the Crushing Debt podcast is the longest running legal podcast in Tampa Bay.
Nice.
Of all the attorneys I know who do podcasts, none of them have been doing it as long as I have. And so it's interesting. At the beginning, it was, hey, it's a startup podcast, support me.
Right.
Now it's, I'm the most experienced podcaster, support me. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy talking about this stuff. I enjoy educating people about this stuff, about ways. We talked last episode. Find something you enjoy doing. Find something you're better at doing than anyone else and turn it into a side hustle. That's kind of what I've done with the show in terms of the sponsorships, the Patreons, the bringing business into the law firm, the SEO, all that kind of stuff.
Well, thank you for being an example to the listeners. Thank you for being an example to our networking partners as well. And obviously all the best of luck on your birthday and all blessings and wishes and all the good stuff as well. I'm hoping we did something a little different here for you. I know it's probably a little embarrassing, but I mean, you tell great stories. So I figured give you an opportunity to kind of like let the listeners know who you are again, and just making sure everybody's like reset. If you're a new listener itself, now you get to know. Now we know who Shawn is, and we can continue to grow.
When we get to July, I'll turn the tables on George.
Cannot wait. I've got some good stories. I have a Hispanic mom. I've got great stories.
So I grew up in Miami. I got Ronnie that I talked about that I've known since we were 4 years old. His whole family is Cuban.
I love him.
So his grandmother passed a while back, but taught me how to ride my bike.
Nice.
But didn't speak a word of English.
Oh. No need.
Didn't speak a word of English. But yeah, I love them. I would do anything for him and vice versa. And so, a lot of times I'll joke about Miami and the Spanish or Cuban population. It's all out of love.
Much love. Because
my best friend in the entire world and his whole family are all Cuban. So I love them all.
Nice.
So I think we need to talk about a couple other things before we wrap up. Our second sponsor is Mark Purvis. He has been with us since the very beginning, as you know. Mark is a 20-year award-winning videographer. What he does is he will come to you and he will record the stories. So there's some of those stories I was telling. If you want to record those types of stories for your kids, or if you want to record those types of stories from your parents or grandparents, go to Mark's website, legacyspotlight.com, and you can schedule time with Mark to come out and preserve those stories for you and for your family. He is our second sponsor. Thank you, Mark, for everything you do to support us and the show. Also want to talk about, we're all over social media, but go check out the Curbelo Financial TikTok page. Go check out the Yesner Law YouTube page. And then if you really wanted to give me a present on my birthday, you can go to the Crushing Debt Patreon page and you can leave us some love there on Patreon. So go to patreon.com, search for Crushing Debt. You can find our Crushing Debt page there, and there's different levels. Although if all you want to do is listen, I will take it. But if you want to leave me a birthday present, Patreon is a place to do it. I think that'll pretty much wrap us up.
Well, thank you, sir, for letting us get to know you even more. I know that most of the listeners know you already, but it's never a bad thing to get a refresher. But yes, you're a nice guy and you care a lot.
Yeah. Hopefully that came through. We'll see. That and I'm sarcastic as heck. But so anyway, it's my birthday, so I'm going to do the line. You can try it next year or next
year.
Well, next year's only like 2 weeks away.
That's true.
So if you want more money at the end of the month rather than more month at the end of the money, we appreciate you listening to our show. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, and we will talk to you in next week's episode.
If you have questions that you think would make a great topic for a future episode, please email Shawn or connect with us on social media. Shawn Yesner and Yesner Law, PL, are Florida licensed attorneys. The information contained in this week's episode is not a substitute for legal advice. Your situation may differ, especially if you are located somewhere other than the state of Florida. If you have questions, please contact our office or contact a local attorney. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast.